So, my Banlist predictions. Let's start off by agreeing on the fact that the top 3 decks of the format that are really tier 1 are YuGiOh, Assailant I, and Burning Abyss. I believe that's somewhat hard to argue with. Mermail are somewhat past their prime. Boojins are just, right now they can't answer to super polymerization. And, well, what else would there be? YuGiOh have just essentially disappeared off the map. And Spellbook have the occasional good run-in, but besides that, I mean, yeah, let's face it, tier 1 is YuGiOh, Burning Abyss, and Assailant I. The first card I want to talk about is Vanity's Emptiness, of course. It's essentially a card that reads your opponent can no longer play YuGiOh until he draws an out to it. If I remember correctly, there are 2 continuous spell and trap cards, which basically did the same back in Dragon Ruler format, and led to them getting limited. I'm thinking of Macrocosmos and Dimensional Fissure. If those 2 warranted a limit, so does this. It's easy to argue that special summoning is even a bigger deal for the game than using the graveyard. And it's essentially a win condition that every single deck can use. The thing about Macro and D-Fissure is that only really rogue decks can actually use it or main deck it, whereas this, every single meta deck is main decking at the very least 2, if not 3. And they can play around it, they can establish a field and then flip it. And I mean, notably, Burning Abyss can make Pleiades, and if you have a Pleiades on the field and your opponent tries to destroy Vanity's Emptiness by destroying another spell trap card, you can bounce that spell trap card with Pleiades. Because it doesn't hit the graveyard, your Vanity stays alive, and they still can't play YuGiOh. So I do believe that the card, at the very least, warrants a limit. I don't know if Konami will have the common sense or decency, I don't really know what it qualifies as, to do it, but I mean, according to the laws of logic, it warrants, at the very least, a limit. The next thing I want to talk about is a deck that the World Championships showed us that has absolutely still got it, despite being, well, on the old side, I suppose, Vanity. Now, the deck itself can pull off some of the most absurd OTK creating, I suppose, combos you could possibly imagine. It just keeps spamming and spamming and spamming day in, day out, and once it gets the ball rolling, it's extremely hard to counter. We've seen it top a couple of times, not really win any major events though, but I do believe that it has some kind of a hit in stock, just because what we know is it's capable of, and the fact that Konami isn't really making any money off it anymore. The logical thing to do, from Konami's perspective, to stop the ridiculous OTK variants, which I myself play, I absolutely love the deck, would be to hit Launcher, I believe. I mean, it's a searchable Soul Charge / Monster Reborn thing. It brings back 2 monsters from the graveyard, 2 Infinity monsters from the graveyard, and it's completely free. It also helps the players manage bad hands by discarding Infinity cards to the graveyard, and it's just really, really too good. I mean, the logical thing to do to encourage the so-called control variants would be to ban Launcher and then maybe semi-limit instead of straight-up limit Infinity Barrier. It would force the players into more conservative plays, and it would force them to play a 3rd Soul Charge unless they actually hit it. Soul Charge, I mean, it's easily the most broken card in the game right now, but it's a rather awkward one to have to hit if you're talking about balancing out the competition. All 3 top decks use it. But let's look at what they can do with them. YuGiOhs can, I suppose, pull off a field of synchros, but that's, I mean, yeah, maybe 1 or 2 synchros, maybe make an Armadas in the, Armades, whatever, at the mirror match. But yeah, it's really not incredible. Maybe they could bring back a Winda, I suppose, or Construct. But besides that, it's not necessarily the best play the deck has. Take something like Burning Abyss. If you're playing Burning Abyss and you top deck Soul Charge and you have a bunch of monsters in the graveyard and your opponent already has an established field, you can basically make a bunch of rank 3s, but I suppose that unless you have Astral Force, you can't really make a big push. Let's say you can make, 2 Dantes maybe, and like, if you really want to push it, I don't know, Alucard and pop back row. It's really an underwhelming play. The deck doesn't really need to run 3 Soul Charges, nowhere, not in the slightest. The only top deck that really needs 3 Soul Charges is Tellarknights. Most Tellarknight builds we've seen run 3 Soul Charges because they can just make rank 4 plays for days, and that can actually win games, even if it's just bringing back 2 monsters, clearing the field with Errata'd, and just ending your turn. You're getting a bunch of pluses off of that. It's more than good enough to warrant playing 3 of in that deck. The only argument in favor of like hitting Soul Charge really heavily that Konami have right now is the Infernity problem. I mean, I'm just going to refer to it as the Infernity problem because, I mean, it kind of is. If they limit Soul Charge, they essentially kill Infernity completely. We won't see it be played competitively, at least not the Xyz variant, ever again. Until something more broken than Soul Charge comes out. God help us all. So I don't really think that Konami are going to bother hitting Soul Charge too hard. If they hit it, it's going to be a semi-limit, but even that, I suppose, would be pushing it. I don't honestly think that it's going to be as relevant in the coming formats anyway. Qliphoths don't really care about the graveyard. DDDs are just, they have mechanics that special summon from the graveyard anyway. So I don't really feel like it's going to be extremely relevant in the coming formats, especially if Qliphoths become tier 1 or 0, as people are predicting that they will be. So I can see, frankly, semi-limit at most on Soul Charge. The other things I believe might happen. Hit Artifact Moral Talk, it's too good. Basically, it does everything you want a card to do. It pops a card, it provides a body to hit with, and, well, it baits out back row. And it provides something to Xyz with. So either way, the card is just way too good. If you hit Sanctum, you kill the deck. If you hit Moral Talk, it's still playable. So I believe that Moral Talk to 1, or just to 1, it's probably the best thing to do. Other than that, I believe that in terms of the big 3 decks, I don't believe any of the key parts of the engine are going to get hit, except possibly Sinister Shadow Games, since, I mean, it's basically an on-theme Foolish Burial in trap form, meaning you can play it on the end phase, and it's chainable. It basically has everything going for it. There's basically no reason to keep it at 3. I do believe that hitting, like, just banning it or putting it to 1 would be very detrimental to the deck. So I believe that putting it to 2 is probably the best thing that Konami can do. I don't believe that they're going to do the same thing that they did in Japan, that is to say limit Winda and limit Construct to encourage people to play the new fusions, but either way. And, I mean, as far as the hands are concerned, Ice Hand and Fire Hand, they've become completely irrelevant, as well as the overall hat deck. It just, I don't even know what happened to it. I guess it got kind of power creeped, but it was just, yeah. I mean, I don't really mind the fact that the deck is gone, because, I mean, the mirror matches were just kind of like watching paint dry, but the thing is, the hands are still extremely good. I don't believe that they warrant a limit or a ban, but it's just maybe a semi-limit. I don't know. I don't know if Konami's going to bother. But either way, I can potentially see a semi-limit. If not, I mean, they might as well just downright ban them. And lately, we've seen that Konami have more of a tendency to basically trim stuff off the format. They don't basically do mass bans like they did when they hit Monster Reborn and Heavy Storm at once. They'll only really hit 1 or 2 cards, so I don't believe that anything other than what I've mentioned is likely to get hit. Mermail are way past their prime, they're not going to get hit. Spellbooks and Bujin are not relevant enough, they're not going to get hit either. Yeah, I don't really think that anything else is going to get hit. As far as stuff coming off the list goes, I believe that they'll probably unban Trishula, because I mean, last time that they really unlimited a huge synchro was YuGiOh. Everyone thought it was going to be the end of the world, the price just tripled, but it hasn't really done that much. It remains a good card, but the reason it was so good at the time is because it was a single card answer to Stardust Dragon, and Stardust Dragon was hell to get around at the time. So yeah, I don't honestly think that it's an impossibility for Trishula, and I mean, we've seen the price go up like crazy. It's very likely that Trishula actually gets put to 1. I don't think they're gonna unlimit Brianarch, because it remains probably the best synchro to ever get released. It is just way too good and way too easy to get out. So frankly, yeah, I believe that Trishula has a shot at coming back. Other than that, there's of course the eternal free my nigga Stratos debate. There is a chance of it coming back just to hype up the hero deck and just to hype up, I mean, the strategy in general, I suppose. People are talking about splashing it into Shadows because, I mean, there's a fire. Is it fire? Yeah, fire and earth fusions are going to be coming out for Shadow. So playing E-Heroes would essentially encourage people to play them to play Shadow, because it would allow them to search out the cards. So it's very possible that Stratos comes back to 1. The logical trade-off would be, I mean, to avoid another Bubble Beat scenario, would be to put Bubble Man to 1 or to 2, because most of the gimmicky OTKs that the deck can pull off are to do with Bubbleman, and well, multiple copies of Bubbleman getting special summoned for free, and then doing a bunch of Xyz plays. I honestly believe that's not necessarily how Konami want the deck to be played. If they play it with Dark Law or whatever, I can't say I really have bothered looking at the engine that much, but if they play it with Dark Law and Stratos and whatnot as a splashable engine, basically in Shadows, I can probably see Konami being okay with like unlimiting Stratos and then hitting Bubbleman just to avoid the new Bubble Beat format. Other than that, there's a bunch of irrelevant stuff right now on the ban list that's just downright banned. Stuff like, well, not necessarily Metamorphosis, it remains a good card, but 1000 Dice Restrict, I mean, really, does it warrant still being banned? I understand that it was good in conjunction with Metamorphosis, but come on. Then there's Dark Magician to Chaos. Is it really that good anymore? Does it warrant being banned? Even Glow Up Bulb, I mean, it's really good, don't get me wrong, Glow Up Bulb does have a competitive future if it comes back, but it's just, does it warrant just the straight up ban? I don't believe it does. Either one of those cards might be coming back. We've seen Glow Up Bulb go up in price a lot. And the other one that actually might get unlimited is, on semi-limited actually, would be Reborn Tengu. There's talk of that happening. If anyone remembers Tengu plant format, that shit wasn't particularly fun to deal with, but because of the power creep, you could argue that Tengu isn't as good as he used to be. Either way, all those cards are potential candidates for getting released from the list. And lastly, I mean, this is more of a wish than anything else, Bestiarity 2, even if they put Bestiarity 3, Gladiator Beasts wouldn't do jack shit. They've been power creeped so far out of the game. The one good card they have is War Chariot. It is a really good card, but I mean, come on, it's a deck that relies upon having the battle phase and attacking big monsters with small ones. It's just completely irrelevant right now. I mean, 3 Bestiari would give it a slight chance as a rogue deck, I suppose. Even something like unlimiting Bestiari and then like putting Chariot to 2 because there's no way to search out Chariot. The deck still wouldn't be relevant at all. It's not. I don't understand why they're keeping it, why they've actually kept it dead for this long. So yeah, guys, that's really what I think might happen on the ban list. I don't feel like none of those predictions are extremely far-fetched nor completely illogical. Maybe Tengu actually is the only one, or Tengu and Stratos are the two which I'm most doubtful on. But they're both remote possibilities. I could see either one of the two happening. Either way, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I forgot any card that really warrants getting unlimited or whatever. And yeah, that's it, guys. I'm out.